Life is a journey, not a destination. Welcome to Broken to be Blessed Network, where strong, bold, powerful men will share their journey of inspiration and motivation. Life is meant to be lived, but it depends on one's own experiences that will shape their own path. For this reason, they will leave with you their own strategies used to overcome life's challenges. I'm your host, Samantha McNeil.
Again, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Broken to be Blessed Network. I'm so happy to have you a part of this journey and this season with us. And as you know, I'm going to let you meet our guest and have a lovely talk with him and just know his journey and all of those wonderful things.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, Pastor Randolph Richards. Pastor Randolph Richards hails from the community of Spot Valley in St. James and has been a Christian for 13 years. He has answered the call of God on his life since he was a teenager and started preaching his first sermon at the age of 17. This motivated him to attend the Bethel Bible College, where he had graduated with a bachelor's degree in theology with a minor in guidance and counseling. He is ordained as a minister in the Deliverance Evangelistic Association and is currently the youth pastor of the Word of Faith Deliverance Center in Montego Bay. He is also the Assistant Divisional Secretary for the Deliverance Evangelistic Association Central Division of Churches. Currently, he is pursuing his Master's of Science degree in Counseling and Social Work at the Michael University College. Pastor Randolph Richards has a passion for God and Christian service.
Hello, Pastor Richards. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm giving the Lord thanks. Thanks
Awesome,
for having me.
awesome. I'm so happy to have you on with us, and thanks for saying yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So before we get into your journey, we just want to get to know you a little bit more. What do you do for fun?
Well, for me, what I do for fun? Well, I love reading. I love watching religious programs. I watch comedies. Well, the new comedies and most times the older comedies, like from the 80s to the 90s, right? And I enjoy doing crossword puzzles. Most of all, what I enjoy the most is impacting lives through the preaching of the gospel.
Wow, awesome. That is impressive. So what is your favorite food?
My favorite food? Well, I was going to say, well, I don't have a favorite food per se, but basically say everything is my favorite food, but not everything. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So what is it? What is you say everything? So you cook? You like to cook?
Well, I do it from time to time. I help out. Although I'm not good at it, but I'm still catching on.
Okay, okay.
Still
I
catching
see,
on,
I
but
see.
I enjoy helping out in that area too.
Awesome, awesome. I hear you mentioning that you love to impact lives um, through the spreading of the gospel, and also you mentioned that you you love reading and all of that, and you mentioned too that you in your bio here I see that you have been called and have been serving the Lord for quite some time. And even you preached your first sermon at the age of 17. And even when you mentioned that you love to watch the comedies that are more so from the from the 80s, I realized that we could identify and say that you are an old soul. So tell us about your journey and what it is, and what it was like growing up. Seeing that the call of God was on your life so early. Is it that your childhood was different? Was it that you didn't get to enjoy your childhood? How was it?
Well, for my childhood, well, my childhood was good. And although I have been through a lot of challenges, but I would say it has been good so far. Because ever since I was a child, I was born with a challenge from birth. Yeah, right. So it was hard for me in terms of coping and getting along with persons. And parents had challenges with that as well. Because when they were first told about what I had, it was a challenge for and for my parents, especially my mom as well, growing up. But throughout that, it was something that I had to deal with. And then through prayer and through fasting and through my mom's prayer, she prayed for God to heal me of that challenge from birth. And then throughout that prayer, I was able to be be able to socialize the way I needed to and be able to do well. Because when I was going to school, I was not a bright spark. I was a late starter, right? It was challenging for me through basic school, primary school, but when I was in grade six now, I had to get some help in terms of understand the work. But when I reached in grade six, it was not a challenge for me. And then and then when it was GSAT now, it was challenge as well. Well, it was sort of a challenge in a sense, but throughout that, the Lord has helped me. And when I went to when I was going to high school now, it was challenge as well. I was at a public school, and then due to the environment of the school, and due to getting along with the students and all kind of stuff, it was a challenge for me. So mom had to move me from public to private school. And then when I was at the private school, I started to get along with peers well. I was involved more in the life of the school. I was involved in inter-school Christian fellowship. I was involved in all areas. In fact, I shared devotion in class as well. And throughout that, that's where my first love came into me. And throughout that, that's where I sensed God's call in terms of ministry. So throughout ISCF and throughout devotions that I have helped out at teamwork through leading out in devotions, sharing the word, and also at, at the church that I'm present at, which is still my home church, Word of Faith Deliverance Center. It was the first time I started to preach, and then because I told my senior pastor, who is still my senior pastor now, I told him that God has a call on my life to go into ministry, and he too was excited. He too was happy to say, God indeed has a call on your life. And then it motivated me throughout that. And he was the one that told me to preach my first sermon. And for me at first, it was nerve wracking. I was saying to myself, the first time preaching to a crowd, because I would normally preach to a crowd in my class and so on. But throughout that, I, I prayed and I believed God, and God helped me throughout that. Throughout that first sermon, it had helped me in terms of impacting the lives of the people through the spreading of the gospel, right? And and throughout that, it was when God had called me, because I remember, but before I was going to high school, it was at age 12. that I remember I was writing this composition, and the teacher asked us to write what do we want to become in life. Some persons write about being lawyers, doctor, teacher, police officer, and all kind of professions. And I thought of these and I said to myself, boy, I can't fit into them. But the one that stood out to me was pastoral ministry. Because I remember growing up, and before that, um, my mom prayed for me that she prayed the same prayer that Hannah would have prayed for Samuel. And she said, I give him back to you for you to use him. And she didn't know that the Lord would answer that prayer, and I ended up in the person that I am today.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
throughout my mother's prayer, and also from that composition that I've written, my teacher was impressed to say Randolph has a calling on his life because
Mhm.
it encouraged him as well. So I write why I wanted to become a preacher and so on. And I did not know that it was God that was calling me.
Mhm.
And because when I wrote it, I too was impressed, and I too was interested. And ever since growing up, I've listened to many sermons from preachers within my denomination, outside my denomination, and all over. And because from those sermons, it has motivated me in terms of entering into ministry. And I remember high school, I thought of to myself in terms of eh, furthering my studies after I finished high school. Thoughts came to my mind about this institution that I graduated, Bethel Bible College,
Mhm.
which is owned and operated by the New Testament Church of God. And because a thought came to my mind about Bethel Bible College because I heard someone talk about Bethel because one of my old teachers at Chetwood Memorial Primary School, she told me about Bethel Bible College because her husband was a graduate of the institution. And she told me that I should apply there too as well. And other persons have told me about Bethel. Some told me about other institutions. And then when I was praying and I said, God, if this Bethel, I'm gonna go there. And then because we were looking at it from another way, that I should do another secular degree before I think of Bethel Bible College because I had to put Bethel Bible College one side and then focus on another one, which was International University of the Caribbean. Because I
Okay.
was thinking of doing a study in business administration. So I applied for there along with Bethel as well. It was one morning at home while we were cleaning up the house and thing, and my mom was at the stove. And we were praying about Bethel as well. And then the Lord said, full time ministry.
Wow.
And I knew that God was calling me for full time ministry. And then when I applied for Bethel Bible College, because my mind was still on IUC, but I had to take it off and then come to Bethel.
I guess
So,
that's how God works when He's
right,
calling you.
exactly. That's how the Lord works. So, when I applied for Bethel, Bethel called me for an interview. So I went to the interview for Bethel and I got my documents in order and I sent them off to Bethel and I was interviewed by the student services director and the admissions coordinator at the time. And they asked me some questions and they said I should be hearing a call from them. And then when I got a follow up in terms of my application, they said they don't know how I'm going to manage at Bethel because of what I was going through. So they were saying that they don't think I can manage the institution. So me and my mom were so challenged by it, right? We were hurt deeply. So we were upset and said, what do they mean? So I was upset and said, sure, maybe God know I'm to go there. So maybe the Lord did not want me to go there. So from that, we were gonna focus on IUC. And then while I was at my sister's house in Kingston, the person from Bethel called and said I should go through to do some psychological evaluation. And we were saying to ourselves, why would you have to go through that?
Mhm.
Yeah, but I had to do it in terms of what they were requiring. So I did it and I passed it. But there was nothing wrong with me because I thank God for that.
And
So,
we wanna we because on this program what we want to highlight is that broken things can become a blessing. But if
yes.
you let God to do the mending, then it can be mended. I hear you mention that you had some challenges. But I know for the persons who are going to listen to the interview who will know you, they might know the story and know exactly what happened. But for the ones who will not know you, we want to, as much as possible, to let them know, let them
Hmm.
feel what the challenges were, how it were for you emotionally. Because as you mentioned, even as an adult, when you felt and you knew that your mom would have given you back to God, God would have stepped in and turned things around. There were still
Hmm.
some things that even at this stage, they were still, I guess, attached to you, and you had to do an evaluation to prove that, hey, everything is good and I'm on a path and I'm ready for what God is saying. So I want you to let the viewers know what the challenges were and
Okay.
explain to us what it was so that because later on in the interview as a youth pastor I know that this would have been an inspiration to you, but we'll get there as to how it now allow you to view life, to see young people. It doesn't matter what it was placed on them, it doesn't matter how it looked. Once God says this, then this is what it's gonna be. So I want you to let us feel, help us to understand what it was exactly and how the stages were, the challenges, whatever.
Well, the challenges. All right. So the challenges that I would have faced was mild autism at a young age, right? So I was diagnosed when I was about 4 years old, somewhere there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I had it through about when I was about 6, and then because it was a challenge for me in terms of coping.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the one that I had, right? And then being healed of it at about age, I think it was about 5 or 6 thereabout. Yeah, 6 thereabout. I was healed of it through the prayer and the fasting and through believing in me. My mother encouraged me along the way and she prayed because it was easy growing up and deal with mild autism, right? And the other challenges that I have went through at primary school, I was made fun of. I was
Mm-hmm.
called some negative names,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some names I was called idiot, I
Mm-hmm.
was called fool, and those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to bear those names. But through prayer and fasting and through encouragement, I had
Mm-hmm.
to look at those situations and say, Lord, I have been through it and you
Mm-hmm.
have helped me through it.
Amen.
Right. And when I was at high school now, because I was not a part of a clique and so on, and I was not doing the things that they were doing, like smoking and drinking and girlfriends and going
Mm-hmm.
to sessions that they were going to, like dances, that is, because I was growing in a Christian home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was made fun of because of my Christian faith. But ever since I went to teamwork, I lived out my Christian faith, and persons at teamwork, I have been able to rub off on them.
Mm, look at that.
I've
Look
rubbed off on them, right? Most of them look up to me, and also most of them come to me for encouragement. In fact, I've prayed for a lot of them, right?
at God.
Yeah.
Mm. Look at God. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I guess that pushes us right now to the point of you were mentioning that you actually you were at the stage when you were about to give up after you're saying Now you put IUC on the back burner, and you're now focusing on going in ministry. There was a setback again, which caused you to feel disappointed, a little down. But right in that, God showed up.
Yes, God indeed showed up. Yeah. So I give God thanks because when I look at that experience, I finished Bethel Bible College, and in my because I've been at Bethel Bible College for the past 4 years. Because I
Hmm.
started after I finished teamwork school in Montego Bay in 2012, and then head to Bethel Bible College. So at Bethel, I was actively involved. I was actively involved in the chorale in my fourth year. I was actively involved in ministry, the preaching, also evangelism. I also was involved in terms of being a valedictorian at my val service,
Wow,
right,
wow.
and being awarded the alumni scholarship in my third year based on the academic performance that I've demonstrated throughout my studies, right? And it was another accomplishment for me because at the age of 17, I started Bethel Bible College and then graduated at the age of 21, right? And after that, at 22, I ended up in the youth, in the role as youth pastor. So that was another accomplishment.
Wow.
Yeah.
God is indeed good. He is. Broken things can become a blessing if you let God do the mending. And we hear
Yes.
it this evening. We hear Pastor Richards telling us his story, how we have encountered so many different feeling of hurt and being teased and being called out. But his mom prayed and believed God. And today he's here to tell us how good God has been. And he is now serving at his local church as a youth pastor. And I wanted to just shed some light because I know these things would have bring, the passion, what you go through really do develop your passion. And now as a youth pastor, share with us what your experience is like and how you look at molding those young people of your church.
Well, my role as youth pastor at Word of Faith is a role that comes with great responsibility. It comes with discipline, courage. It comes with flexibility, right? So this role is a rewarding one. I had some good times, a little bit of bad times with it, but I thank God that I'm able to work and do my best for Him. And getting along with the youths was one of my greatest events in my life. Being able to help youths to understand their purpose in life, being able to help them to know what is their reason for serving the Lord, and being able to help them to understand that in spite of the ills that is happening and the pressures of life, they can be able to make it through the challenges that they may be facing. Because I have, because before I've entered into the youth pastoral role, because I've worked both in the school sector and also in the social services, right? Because from those experiences working with young people, especially children and young adults, I found my calling working with young people in terms of ministry, right? Because at first I thought they were gonna station me as a senior pastor, but the Lord wanted me to go through much of working with the youths and to build myself up in terms of ministry because I'm still young. I'm still young, but I give God thanks that in spite of it all, I found joy working with young people, but not only work with young people, but with the adults as well. Although they're not so easy to deal with, but I found I find joy working with them too.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I tell you, it's just awesome. And I see here that you are currently doing your master's degree in counseling and social work.
Yes. So that's another accomplishment for me now. Right,
Awesome.
right. So it's going good. Being able to further my craft and to hone my skills is another plan of mine in terms of utilizing it both in ministry and also in the wider work world.
Awesome. I tell you, it's just incredible. And I want you at this time to encourage someone because and that is why I wanted you to state what the challenges were because I know even right now, even on this program, I've had mothers who share their journey who have children who were diagnosed with autism. They know that it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, it's a great challenge. And there are so many others who are out there. And you yourself who would have experienced such and have seen how God has helped you. And today you are an inspiration. You are being placed in a position where you are given the opportunity to mold other young lives. I want you to pour into someone's spirit this evening as to how any mother who needs to trust God, who is believing God, who may have been faced with even the teenage phase of it, and all of those phases. And just to pour into them, help them to understand, just to speak a word of comfort that God still can and He will do exceedingly and abundantly above that all that they can even ask or think.
Right, right. I know there may be some parents who are going through some challenges in terms of dealing with children, especially your children who are going through challenges in terms of autism. Because we know autism is not an easy thing to live with. So, parents, it can be challenging, but with the help of God, never give up on your children. Because you find that some parents, they just say, I can't bother anymore, I feel like giving up. But never give up because one day that child is going to become something great. Always encourage your child, speak well of the child, continue to pray for him. And that child may not be as a fast learner as I am, but that child will go through stages. Just keep praying, trusting God. That child's gonna end up become the best person in society, the most valuable person people will come across. And that child will change your life. Because if God had done it for me, He can do it for your children. So just keep praying for your children, speak positive words over them, and don't see them as mistakes. Your children are not mistakes, they are God's precious gifts to you. Even if autism has come, see them as children of potential. Because I remember I was watching this video and it says autism is not a disability, it's a different ability. So we must encourage them with the different abilities that they have. So pray for them, love them, and comfort them, no matter what.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Randolph Richards, for sharing your journey with us today on Broken to Be Blessed Network. Thank you so much and congratulations and all the best on your masters. And I
Mhm.
know that we will see and hear of all the great things that God will continue to do in your life. Thank you so much again and have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Prophetess, and thanks for having me. And thank you, viewers, and we wish you God's richest blessings as well.